Describe a system in plain English, and an AI agent maps it onto a shared canvas live. Your team edits the design together, and when it's ready, the app generates a complete technical specification you can build from. Now, if you've tried building anything serious like this with AI, you already know the wall. The first few hours feel incredible, and then a week later, the agent has forgotten every decision you've made. One new feature breaks three others, and the codebase you were excited about just starts fighting you. That's not an AI problem, it's an architecture problem. And it's the same wall all of you are hitting in your careers, where the senior dev advice online sounds great as long as you're already senior. The developers who win in this market aren't avoiding AI, and they're not handing everything over to it either. They're learning to think like senior engineers and then using AI to build at the speed of one. And that's what this video teaches. By the end, you'll know how to design a system before writing any code, how to use the 6-file context system I write before every project, and how a senior engineer actually thinks when working with AI. Oh, and that 6-file context system I just mentioned, I've packaged it into a free guide you can grab and use on any of your upcoming projects, not just this one. The link is down in the description. Next, the stack is Next.js, React 19, LiveBlocks for real-time collaboration with agents, TriggerDev for background work with AI agents, Clerk for auth and user management, Prisma and Postgres for data, Vercel Blob for storage, all production grade and deployed by the end of the video. So one person with the right system can now build what used to take a team. And by the end of the next few hours, that person is you. So let's build it. Before we open up a single tool, I want to spend the next 10 minutes on the part of the video that I think is most important and that decides whether what you're building ships or falls apart in the third week. There's going to be no syntax and no code in this section. Rather, what I'm teaching you is the way that I think before I write a single prompt and the way I plan a build before I touch the agent and the system that I use to keep AI from drifting halfway through a project. So that by the end, you'll know the conversations to have before you build the 6-file context system that turns an AI agent from a guesser into a developer who already knows your codebase, and how to break any project into units the agent can ship cleanly one at a time. So if you've been frustrated by AI breaking your code, then this is the video that fixes it. The intro touched on something I want to sit with for a minute. You heard me say senior engineers a lot, and if you're early in your career, that framing probably hit a nerve. So let me be direct about what I mean. The job market for developers right now is harder than it was 2 years ago. Some entry level work has been automated. Clients who used to hire freelancers for straightforward projects are now doing it themselves. And a lot of people who learn to prompt without learning how to think are now flooding the market. So if you're worried about that, you're not wrong to be worried. But the developers getting squeezed aren't the ones who learn deeply. They're the ones who learn just enough to execute without understanding the system behind it. That was always a fragile place to be. And AI just made that fragility visible faster. So the way through is to learn the kind of thinking that AI cannot replace, the architectural thinking, the systems level judgment, and then use AI to build at the speed of someone twice your experience. The clearer your understanding of what you're building, the better the AI output, which means that learning properly isn't a waste of time in the AI era. It's the best investment that makes everything else possible. So when I say things like, think like a senior engineer in this video, I don't mean you need 10 years of experience to apply this. These are learnable habits, and you can start building them today on this project. And here's something most developers outside of big tech don't really know. At Google, Amazon, and Netflix, before any serious project starts, engineers spend weeks writing documents, and sometimes months. Design docs, one pagers, RFCs, the format changes by company, but the principle is the same. Figure out what you're building before you build it. And senior engineers at these companies sometimes go months without writing production code. They're designing systems, making architectural decisions, reviewing what other engineers ship. So, software engineering has never really been about typing the most lines per day. It's always been about thinking clearly about what should exist before you build it. And AI didn't invent that discipline, it just made it the most important skill in the room. And that's the whole foundation for the spec driven agentic development course that I've been developing for a long time now. So, if you want to stay up to date on how that's going and receive an occasional email where I share my thoughts at the current state of the industry, I'll leave the link down below so you can subscribe for the newsletter. But let me immediately make it concrete in this video. Here are two different prompts that two different developers might write to build the same feature. The first one says, build me a SaaS app with authentication and a real-time canvas. And the second one says, I'm adding a LiveBlocks room provider to the workspace route. Auth is already handled by Clerk middleware. The canvas uses React Flow. Room tokens should be issued only after verifying project membership. Wire the provider into the existing workspace layout without touching the sidebar or navbar. Both developers want roughly the same thing, but the second prompt reveals a developer who knows their auth layer, understands their component boundaries, and knows what should and shouldn't be touched. They've thought about the system, so they're communicating decisions and not wishes. So the AI isn't smarter when it reads the second prompt. The developer is. And that is the difference between vibe coding and what I'm going to teach you, which is spec-driven development, which is also the premise behind that spec-driven agentic development course that I'm actively developing. Vibe coding focuses on the outcome. You describe what you want, let the agent run, and react to whatever comes out. For a weekend prototype, that's fine. But for anything you're going to maintain, it just collapses. New features break the old ones, the codebase starts contradicting itself, and you spend more time untangling AI mistakes than actually building. Spec driven keeps the thinking with you and gives the agent a system to execute against. You stay the architect, and the agent becomes the implementation engine. So, how do you actually build that system? Because that's the part that nobody really teaches. It starts before you open up any AI coding tool with a conversation. When I get an idea for something I want to build, I open up a planning AI, ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini, whichever's on hand, and I talk through it. What does this thing actually do? Who uses it? What are the core flows? Where are the complex patterns? And what could go wrong? I push back on the answers and let AI pressure test my thinking until the system becomes clear in my head. This conversation is the work. It's what senior engineers do before they build, except they usually do it in their head or on a whiteboard. But doing it with AI externalizes it and makes it faster. When the system is clear, you write it down. And that's where the 6-file context system comes from. Not from sitting at a blank page trying to write documentation, but from taking the output of the architectural conversation and organizing it into documents that travel with the project for its entire life. For Ghost AI, I organized everything into one folder called context. 6 files, and what matters is that before your AI agent writes anything, it already knows what you're building, how it fits together, what the rules are, and where things stand right now. That's what you're going to learn about in this video. But very quickly, here's what each one of them does at a glance. The project overview covers what the product is, who is it for, the core flows, and what's deliberately out of scope. The architecture file defines the tech stack, the boundaries between layers,